It's a great pleasure to be here today and to welcome you. You guys coming from very different backgrounds, different geographies, different walk of life, but with one purpose that unites all of us, which is to position our business schools, our next business, our organizations as a force for good for society.
We can achieve greater levels of economic and social prosperity than we have done to date, because ultimately a moral corporation is a commercially successful corporation, and the competitiveness of nations depends on the moral fibre of our corporations. And key to that moral fibre is this concept of mutuality that we're going to be talking about over the next day and a half. It is a way of recognising us as individuals, as humans, within our communities, within our firms, as customers, as suppliers in the chain. But the question is, are companies really behaving in a mutual way? Will they behave in a mutual way? What does it take for them to do that? How can we judge whether or not they've really succeeded in doing what they potentially can do?
If you think about what mutuality is, it means there's a relationship between me as a business and, well, anybody around this business, be it my supplier, my customer, my client, my employee, their families, whoever. The cooperation between Mars and the Saïd Business School are trying to create the new paradigm of how capitalism should actually evolve.
One of my biggest expectations for this conference was understanding what mutuality really is, because I feel like it is a fairly esoteric term, one that is very difficult to pin down, and as a result the measurement issues that come from there.
For me, mutuality seemed like just another concept that was, we were talking about just because it was in the moment. For me, I equate mutuality with trust and with accountability. And that's been the common theme of all the sessions that we had yesterday as well as today.
The management change that is needed here cannot be incidental. It has to be intentional. It's not just that companies are doing good, it's that they intend to and want to make that a core part of their business going forward.
For some inexplicable reason, it's unacceptable to do good by doing well in a business setting. But it is acceptable to spend a couple of hours painting a school with your colleagues on Community Day and ticking that citizenship box as a result. We can do well by doing good, or good by doing well. And when we do, we will no longer experience marginal gains, but realise that there are multiple ways of doing well, and that doing well will no longer just be a euphemism for pure financial profitability.
160 years ago, opium came to China and destroyed a flourishing ancient China. And now, a new form of opium was brought to China again, and it is the culture of consumption.
We started from the top, the chairman and the CEOs. We want to change the way they think. How did we do that? We brought humanities, history, religion, philosophy, 3 subjects, into the curriculum, degree and non-degree program. Because we want them to be competitive, but they want to compete with compassion.
Companies, leaders need to do more about diagnosing what's going on inside the organization so they can identify these gap areas and then figure out, how do we narrow that gap?
Absolutely.
If we really want companies to make significant investments in these things, we've got to start thinking differently about good governance. What is good governance?
If at checkout you could click a button and see the provenance or see the supply chain tracking, how many customers are actually going to care? And that, I think, is the challenge. This is why I think we're entering this whole new era that is very exciting but extremely frightening as well, because it won't just be businesses that have to take responsibility. It will be us as individuals. And I don't think we're actually prepared for that shift.
You tap into more social capital, human capital, natural capital, and you bring back more, which makes you sustainable for the coming years. And as you do that, you unveil incredible opportunities to reinvent.
It's not about corporate social responsibility or about philanthropy. It's about designing a new management model that would bring similar level of added value to business like a technological innovation.
The economics of mutuality assumes that it will not be either or. It's not capitalism in its most unfettered and crazy form gets profits over here, and small nonprofits are the cleanup crew over there. It has to be all of us together.
Today I'd like to argue that regardless of your stance towards mutuality, whether you think it's a good idea, it's a bad idea, or you haven't quite made up your mind yet, you should nonetheless vote in favor of this motion, which is to oppose the enforcement of mutuality in business.
I believe that we are not yet there to fully rely on our morality to engage in the mutuality of business, because clearly it hasn't worked. We need to engage in legal enforcement at a national level to ensure organizations are held fully accountable for their actions.
You have countries that are more developed that are happy to adopt this principle of mutuality in their business, but you have other countries that might be hesitant and do not understand how they would be able to do this. You have industries, like they mentioned, that might not be able to see how mutuality can be implemented in their business, ladies and gentlemen. But we feel that by having this enforcement, it creates that urgency to make people to step up and realize, like, okay, we've got to pull up our socks and we have to figure something out. It sends a message that we are no longer taking a soft stance as to what is the role of the corporation in society today. Ladies and gentlemen, with all those reasons, we hope that you will vote for the opposition bench.
We want to partner with companies which have a similar purpose and with people who have a similar set of moral principles.
Mutuality and freedom are two things that are different at Mars, and that gives me the responsibility to make sure I have the efficiency and the quality to make decisions and the way that I operate. So that's at the heart of what mutuality means to me. Pioneering things like the economics of mutuality, it just brings so much energy and interest. This is a great way of learning new things.
How do we preserve in a business that is growing like this for each leader to be able to think this way? That if you only put a financial metric on this investment, we will have never made those research. And so there is a deep belief in the organization that we need to do it just because we need to, because we love cats, we love dogs, there is a problem to solve. Our view is nutrition can be the first medicine, so if there is a physiological issue and we need to solve that we can solve through nutrition, we will make the product. What I don't know is how we can systematize it going forward at a much greater scale and bring tangible KPIs that will enable us to measure that.
Only by expanding our views beyond the walls of our own organization, by being open, by being humble, by being curious, will we be able to reinvent the next big thing for Mars and other companies.
It gives me great hope that what seemed impossible those few years ago is now both possible, is practical, and is happening while we speak.